For more discussions on the strengthening ties between China and Latin American countries, we're joined by Rong Ying, Chair Professor at Sichuan University. Thanks for joining us, Professor. How can China and the Latin American Caribbean countries overcome the very challenging distance across the Pacific and also some language barriers? Most of those countries speak Portuguese and Spanish, while the people who can speak these two languages in China are quite limited to those who can speak English like me. So how can both sides conquer these challenges to conduct a tighter economic and trade cooperation?
It is true. I think if you look at the differences or kind of distance between China and the Latin American and Caribbean states, it's huge, and it's very much, I think, kind of challenges for closer economic and trade relations. Fortunately, as we have seen that ever since the establishment of the trade and economic relations, particularly I think since the 2 decades ago, and we have seen the relationship, economic and trade relationship growing exponentially. And so the reality tells a totally different stories despite these differences. The challenges arising in culture and others. I think this is largely, any experience can be drawn. That is because first and foremost, politically, the two sides have a kind of a shared and deep-rooted trust among themselves. And equally important, I think that they have a shared interest in expanding that relationship. And also, I think there are quite a lot of successful experience, particularly in terms of improving the understandings and interactions. And in this regard, the platform, the China, the CARIC Forum, CCF, plays a very important role since its establishment 10 years ago. That is, of course, very much demonstrated by the growth of trade and investment between China and the Caribbean, the Latin America and the Caribbean region.
Right. Talking about the highlights of trade between China and Latin American cooperation or trade, we already noticed that China is doing a lot of infrastructure for those countries, especially those countries who joined the Belt and Road Initiative. China's also been buying a lot of farm produce, such as meat, such as fruits from those countries, and those countries are buying a lot of mechanical products and electronic products from China. So what are some other highlights that we can look forward to in bilateral cooperation in the future?
Definitely, I think we have seen many highlights in terms of the trade, growing trade and economic relations. Infrastructure definitely is one of them. And we have seen not only, I think, in terms of the projects per se, rather the quality of a project and the importance or impact of these projects that have been made. Ports, railways, roads, and others. The other, I think, highlight I'd like to make is certainly, I think, the benefits, the mutually beneficial effects that have been built to the two sides in terms of that relationship. And we have seen that the Chinese customers has now more and more had an advantage of enjoying the very good exotic sometimes, the fruits, the product, agricultural fruits, and so on and so forth. Like cherries, that definitely is one of them. Beef, high quality beef is one of them. And last but not least, I think the so-called green nature or the sustainable aspect of that, as more and more Chinese the EVs and others are now, and technologies are being introduced, and together with the investment. So all in all, we're going to see more sustainable, high quality sort of development of China and the Latin America and the Caribbean region on economic and trade areas.
Professor Rong Ying, just hours ago, China-US have reached a consensus of tariffs in Geneva. That news has spread very quickly, but I think China's effort to diversify its trade destination would not easily stop. And how would that affect China's trade relationship with Latin America and the Caribbean countries?
Yeah, the news of China and the United States that they reached agreement is certainly to be welcomed, as we have seen not only by the international community as a whole, but the market as well. But that does not, as you rightly said, that remove the concerns about the uncertainties and unpredictability of the Trump administration on the question of tariff in particular, but also I think economic and trade policies in general. That is why I think these uncertainties and concerns, shared concerns, that had now served as serve that kind of backdrop, context of the growing growing ties between China and the Latin America and the Caribbean regions. Not only in terms of looking need for more alternatives and options, but most importantly, working closer ever to defend the system, multilateral system that is based on rules and norms.